doing this job is an incredible privilege, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to be able to do it. But this is a part of what comes with this job. And it is just a reality that I have to live with. But while I am living with this reality, I also have an obligation to ensure that the district attorney's office can protect the integrity of our ability to prosecute cases in our office, and I have a responsibility to keep my family safe while I choose to do this job. And so I am grateful to Commissioner's Court for taking these threats, not only against me, but against all elected officials in the county really seriously, and for taking steps to address those threats.
Were you in fear for your life?
To be honest with you, I don't have a lot of time in this job to think about that, to think about what, I don't have a lot of time to think about that. Again, my responsibility is to make sure that I can do the job that I have been elected to do.
You took some steps through Commissioner's Court with a request that has now faced some criticism and feedback at several levels, of course, from the Attorney General. Talk about how you made the decision about how to approach that request for these security measures.
Right, so right after we received the death threat, I believe in May of last year, as I said, we reported that threat to the Travis County Sheriff's Office. And at that time, my investigator team here at the District Attorney's Office reached out to the Sheriff's Office to have an evaluation done and to receive recommendations from the Sheriff's Office about the security of my home. We received those recommendations, I believe, in June of last year. And after we received those recommendations, I reached out to county staff to inquire about what the process was like. I didn't hear back at that time, and when the threats became elevated into the fall, and particularly in the winter of this year, I made the decision to reach out directly to Commissioner's Court members.
Can you talk about the decision to do that behind closed doors as opposed to, say, in a public Commissioner's Court meeting?
Well, let me just say a couple of things about that. We as elected officials do not get to choose the venue in which Commissioner's Court hears from us. And the idea that we do is false, quite frankly, is misguided and false. What I will say is that at all times, I have sought to follow the guidance and instructions from Commissioner's Court and from security professionals at the county and outside of the county. So I think what I would say is that all of us, whether it be me or district judges, have followed the process that was available to us.
We know that the Attorney General has alleged that the Open Meetings Act was violated. What is your response to his claims?
Well, I think we would just respectfully disagree about what the state of the law is. It is our view that there's clear Texas Supreme Court precedent that has been in place, that was put in place in response to requests for high-ranking Republican officials' security information, and that our position is consistent with that precedent. We simply have a legal disagreement with the Attorney General's office. We respect their role in this process, and in this process, there is room for judicial oversight by district courts. The Attorney General's office has made determinations about some of these documents. We agree with some of those determinations, and we disagree with other of those determinations. The determinations that we agree with, we are releasing that information. The determinations we disagree with, we are appealing so that a court can review that decision.
We know you all are still fighting to conceal some of these records for security reasons. So for people who are still saying, you say you want transparency, but you're still trying to conceal some of these records, give people your perspective on that.
Yeah, again, I think there are two interests that we think are really important for our office to continue to protect. The first is the ability of our office to prosecute cases in our office. And our view is that the release of the totality of this information could jeopardize our ability to prosecute some of the cases in our office. The second piece is that through this process, we have disclosed the total amount of money set aside by Commissioner's Court for security, and we have disclosed the total amount of money allocated to safeguard my residents. The details beyond that are the specific measures that were taken to safeguard my residents. And it is our view that those details becoming public could increase risk for me and our family in light of the threats that we've experienced to date.
Do you all have any regrets or any ways that you would have gone about it differently in light of some of the legal fight that stands ahead for your office?
No, again, I'm really grateful to Commissioner's Court and to my colleagues throughout the county for the seriousness with which they have taken this issue. It is my view that we have an obligation to be transparent and that we have legitimate interests that we have a responsibility to protect. Namely, as I said, our ability to prosecute cases and the ability of elected officials to stay safe and to keep their families safe. The county and our office has worked very hard over the last several months to strike that balance and to follow the process put in place by law to strike that balance. And then I think the last thing I will say is that we also hoped that this issue would not be politicized. And I think that is just a reality of the environment that we are in. And I think, that is what it is. But from my perspective, the county has worked hard, as has the district attorney's office, to strike that balance.
In your comment there, are you referring to the Attorney General's responses, or who do you think is politicizing the situation?
Oh, I'm not making accusations against anybody. I think that the Attorney General's office and the district attorney's office have legitimate legal disagreement about the state of the law as it applies to these facts. But I am just identifying that we also have an interest in being able to talk about and address political threats of violence free of politicizing those threats. Again, I just want to remind you that on the face of the threats themselves was the intended purpose of changing the way we do business at the district attorney's office. And so we have a responsibility not to give in to those kinds of demands or to create the impression that that is possible. That if you threaten the district attorney, that if you threaten a district judge, that you can influence the outcome of their decisions.